Berserk is the best manga ever, and if you disagree, you're a pussy.
Comes through, it fires out of me, and even now in the passion and the
It's got the most impressive artwork I've ever seen that manages to be alluring and disgusting, sometimes both at the same time. The story is incredibly grim and goes to some pretty dark places, but it provides some of the most impactful and well-written characters I've ever had the pleasure of reading about. And like many, my first exposure to this story was through its anime adaptation. No, not that one. This one. The show is a masterpiece. It's not as good as the manga, but that's like saying getting $1 million isn't as good as getting $1 billion. It's still a great experience all in all. There's no other anime out there quite like Berserk 97. It's got an incredibly distinct feeling it inspires within me. Again, like its source material, it manages to be both horrific and kind of beautiful at times. And I don't mean beautiful in terms of it being overtly bright and cheerful like this. It's more of a melancholic thing. I mean, I could count the amount of anime that impacted me this much on one hand. There's Akira, Redline, and... shit, what's that other one called again? But you know, as great as Berserk is, there's one thing I love that it doesn't have. Robots. Unlike Robot Carnival, a film initially released in 1987 in Japan, and later in 1991 for the US release. It's kind of under the radar for a lot of people. It's not super obscure. If you're an anime fan, you might have heard of it, but it's also not exactly a widely recognized work, unlike Berserk 97. But similar to that show, Robot Carnival is also an incredibly unique experience. In the vein of many old anime productions from back in the day, there isn't a ton of development info to be found on this one, but it's brought to us by APPP, another production company you probably haven't heard of because they disbanded.
That's another one for the fire.
Although it wasn't financial troubles akin to most anime studios from the era. In fact, it lasted longer than some until their founder Kazufumi Nomura passed away in 2021. This film is one of their big claims to fame, along with their JoJo-related stuff. It was a showcase for a lot of lesser-known and up-and-coming anime directors at the time, most notably the legend himself, Katsuhiro Otomo, along with many future staff who would work on his Akira film. And it shows. Robot Carnival is an anthology, showcasing a series of shorts with a variety of tones and styles, but most share the trait of featuring no dialogue save for two. The only real connecting thread through all the stories are... Actually, you know, if you can't figure that out from the title, that's on you. I remember I found this movie during my mid-teens, walking into my living room when my mom was watching it, her having thrown it on just from seeing the title. And it sure as hell made an impression. I still to this day can think of very few films that provide an experience akin to Robot Carnival. And that's really what I'd describe it as overall. An experience. It's kind of a hard film to review for that reason. Almost none of these stories are super straightforward, and nothing can truly recreate seeing it for yourself, which you should do before watching this, and I really mean that. You can find it for free easily, so watch it. Go on. I'll wait. Okay, you back? It was pretty good, right? Well, now I'm gonna gush about it. We have 9 stories with different styles and tones, all done during what I consider the peak decade of Japanese animation, and with what seems to be very little creative restriction. Most of these shorts don't even have any dialogue. It's almost akin to Fantasia, not only with how most stories are entirely musical, but there's also one segment that seems pretty inspired by Night on Bald Mountain. But before we actually dig into this fun sack... What the fuck did I just say? There's the matter of sub or dub. There isn't even that much dialogue, but trust me, in the segments that do have it, you're gonna want the subs. Why? Because all of the Japanese people are gonna sound like this.
This steam-driven behemoth is under my command, and I will use it to drive you and your bloated monstrosity back to wherever you came from!
I mean, I think it's intentional parody of bad dubs, given that that story is kind of a spoof, but doesn't really do anything for me and makes it harder to appreciate what's actually being said, so yeah, just gonna... There we go. The opening was created by Otomo himself in collaboration with Atsuko Fukushima, who worked as an animator on Akira and several of the Ghibli films, which... God, I need to talk about those someday. And that's far from the last time I'm going to bring them up either in this video. Now, one thing I appreciate about Otomo is his goofier side that not everyone is gonna see, where he'll have a situation that's technically horrific, but it's executed in such a ridiculous way that I can't help but laugh. A boy finds a flyer advertising a robot carnival and freaks the fuck out, warning his village and dipping out of there. Now, you may be wondering, why is everyone so worried? Well, this carnival doesn't just end with a bang. They lead with it. I fucking love the Robot Carnival. I mean, first of all, I get a big smile on my face whenever I see that it has that title displayed across it in giant constructed letters. It serves as a cheeky title card for the film, but also the design is sick. A death machine on wheels populated by mechanical attendants still putting on their jolly show. What was this thing? Was it a real carnival? Was it made to destroy things? Who the fuck built it? None of this is explained, same with most stories in the film, but I don't mind. These segments are meant to show off crazy concepts more than anything, and boy oh boy do they deliver on that front. There's only one where I felt story was the primary focus, but that's fine, since these people were talented enough to make it work. The aesthetics of this movie are also off the chart. Each segment has its own style, and I think they all look fucking excellent. But I also do have a general fondness for circus and clown-related media. Otomo here is kind of channeling the vibe he'd achieve in the canner fodder?
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
Otomo here is kind of channeling the vibe he'd achieve in the cannon fodder segment of his later film, Memories. Everything's grungy. You can really feel the weathering of the desert with the amount of texturing, although in contrast, the people and sound design are fairly cartoony. Again, reflecting that kinda offbeat tone. The carnival is grand in design, but you can tell it's only a remnant of its former glory. The destruction here it causes is technically horrific, but in Otomo's way it's so ridiculous I can't help but chuckle. A robot band shooting off fireballs with their instruments, or little dancers who give a bow before exploding. In addition to the aesthetics, the animation quality itself is peak. I mean, again, it's Otomo, what do you expect? Not much more to say on it. It's a short and sweet little intro that gives you an idea of the kind of wild ride you can strap yourself in for. Our first proper segment is directed by Koji Morimoto, who is an animator on The Animatrix, Akira, and Memories, all of which are awesome, and with that kind of resume, you can expect something real special. I don't know what to really call this old guy, but I'm gonna assume it's Franken based on the name of the short. As you could probably guess from the very subtle allusion in that title, he's a mad scientist. But instead of bringing life to the dead, he's going to bring life to a machine. Honestly, a much sounder plan. Although, when you live in ruins and are working with whatever ramshackled shit you've got lying about, it's easier said than done. Sounds like how I describe making my videos, too. It's not spelt out what his wider goal is, but come on, he's a mad scientist, you can figure that shit out. That's right, singing. Like most segments, this one's a mood piece, and oh man, what a mood. Some of the main things I value in animation are texture, grit, and lighting. I hate that smooth, almost waxy look you see on digital backgrounds nowadays. There's no soul, and I hate it. But this is exactly what I'm looking for. The intro already had a gruff and weathered look to it, but this is the pinnacle. Right away from the first few shots, the environments are incredibly atmospheric. Everything is crumbling, barely being held together. It immediately sells the feeling that this guy's a lunatic recluse conducting his experiments on the fringes of society, and for that reason, he's not working with the best equipment. Again, relatable. Beyond all the dilapidation, there's a ton of little quirks to pick out, something I appreciate in any animated film. This wall on the top floor has this weird face carved into it, which I only noticed on this watch, but the shot after is an even better example. As Franken descends into his lair, you have these prehistoric bones suspended by wire like a museum display, except they're not bones. If you look closely, they're constructed from metal, and as Franken lowers himself down further, he passes this giant robot corpse. Not only does it look cool, but it's a nice bit of ambiguous visual storytelling. It leaves you wondering, what is this place? What was this robot, and how did it get here? I know I'm weird and probably the only guy asking, but... Actually, yeah, there is no but. Then we see the main event, Franken's robot, which kind of gives me Castle in the Sky vibes. Appropriate considering who worked on the music. There were 3 composers. There's Isaku Fujita, who as far as I can tell only contributed to this film. You got Masahisa Takeichi, whose most prolific work is scoring the original Go Lion. Joe Hisaishi, though, our third, has had quite the monumentous career. I know him as the composer for Hayao Miyazaki's films, which were my childhood, and his music has been ingrained into my brain pretty much since I could form memories. I don't know exactly who did what tracks, but the music is consistently great. I mean, it better be, considering, again, for many segments, that's most of what you're gonna be hearing. The main theme for Franken's Gears is marvelous and fits like a glove. Pretty much every track does. I love Franken's design too, although he does either have one or a full set of teeth. He doesn't even need to speak. You understand everything you need to from his charmingly expressive animations. A mischievous, scheming old man who's practically bursting at the seams with excitement towards his new project. Again, I know the feeling. I also want to bring particular attention to the lighting in this segment. You get a kind of preview of my favorite part with Franken's crazy muglet up here, which is one of the best shots. But that favorite part is when his creation first comes to life. The experiment seems as if it's failed due to a lack of power and everything quiets down. Then, to signify something's up, the lighting changes to this monochrome palette with a bolder contrast, which I just fucking love. The ending is also very fitting. Franken, exuberant as ever, is thrilled to see the machine is mimicking his actions. He dances with glee and falls over, only to realize too late that a big machine falling in a ruin like this isn't good. Poor Franken. Well, not poor, he was probably evil. The point is, at least he went out with a bang. This is a great opener. And damn man, this ruin, from the brief glimpses we get, is one of the cooler settings I've seen in an anime for a single building. It's almost the feeling I get from certain games, where you have a look into these stages and it seems like there's a whole world out there just beyond your reach. What more can I say? I love it. On with the next. So here's what's going on in this one. An evil guy who's got some David Bowie and Dragon Ball villain envy is invading this planet with an army of robots. A girl gets kidnapped and her android companion is left in these smoking ruins. But somehow he's upgraded into an enhanced form and goes to rescue his gal. And that's pretty much it. It's one extended action scene. The director and character designer was Hidetoshi Omori, who's worked on plenty of robot-related projects like some of the Transformers anime, Brave X-Kaiser, and Zoids. Remember Zoids? It's got basically no story, and even what little there is isn't very coherent, but who gives a fuck? Check this out. Pretty cool. Nothing incredible, but a fun little set piece all the same. I love that particular shading technique artists used on chrome and metallic stuff in older anime. All the heavy contrast where the shadows are nice and deep, sort of wavy too. Reminds me of how Jack Kirby would illustrate machines. The mech designs are expectedly great. In fact, you can assume that from now on, so I'm not stopping to say it every time. The action is well done and the music is fittingly cheesy. Very 80s. Although I will say this end part here is legitimately good. It has these uplifting sounding synths that I really appreciate. It's solid, but given there's another section that's mainly action-oriented later, which I enjoy more, I don't dislike Deprive, but it's by far the most conventional out of any of these, and for that reason, it's the least interesting to me. You have to understand, this is still cool as hell. It's only that the competition is real stiff, and it also didn't leave me with nearly as much to say as any of the others. This entry is the brainchild of Yasuo Miyumetsu, who, of course, has had a pretty prolific career. He worked on Akira, Megazone 2-3, Kashan Robot Hunter, Angel Cop, and the list goes on and on. Needless to say, the man is talented. Also, we get dialogue now, in the form of voiceover, so we can listen to this guy bitch about how much he hates his marriage.
俺の妻はバリバリのキャリアウーマンだ。彼女には人にも似たある種の羨望を強く感じる時がある。
Our main character is this fellow, a man with the worst fucking haircut I have ever seen. And yes, I have watched the Bob Hoskins Mario movie. He's all kinds of fucked up. He picked the wrong gal and is stuck in a cold marriage where he's kind of jealous of his wife for being way more successful than him. And from the small snippets we get, she doesn't seem horrible or anything, but there is this kind of passive-aggressive sheen. Hell, even his daughter is bossing him around. So he's compensating for all this by building a robot girl, who looks... well, I would make a Chris Hansen joke, but in the guy's defense, he seems to be kind of a man-child. His private lab is full of toys he's built, and he's very shut down. He doesn't want physical love, he had a kid, and draining his balls doesn't seem to have done him any good. In fact, based on his wife, he probably got pegged. He wants someone to talk to who gets him, and he gets just that. Although it works a bit too well.
私、恋をしたいと思います。
何を言ってる？今の言葉、プログラムした覚えはないぞ。
寂しいんでしょ？
どうしたんだよ一体。
私、聞こえたし感じたわ。
His creation goes full AM. Skynet mode activated. It has become self-aware. So he does the sensible thing and murders the fuck out of it. Why do I feel sad? It seems our lead, in his immaturity, couldn't handle the realization he'd created something so aware and kind of freaked out. And look, fair enough, I listed the examples. Leaving it active could have gone very wrong. But it's still fucking sad, man. He created this thing and it was seemingly scared to be alive and didn't know what its real purpose was. And it seized on trying to comfort him but didn't know how to properly out of its own inexperience, which is kind of similar to his own dilemma. We cut to years later when he's become old. He's haunted by visions of his creation and returns to the workshop after all this time. Seeing the remains still present, he pays his respects thinking it was all an illusion. Or maybe he forgot his meds that morning, who knows. Although years later, she reappears again and takes him off into the distance where they disappear. This one is probably my least favorite of the segments overall. As with Deprive, that doesn't mean it's bad. I still enjoy it. It's beautifully animated, beautifully scored, and it touches on some interesting stuff. But that's my main issue, it only really touches on them. It brings up a lot of themes. Gender roles, conformity, being a man-child, isolation, hiding from your true emotions, the nature of existence, free will, NASA faked the moon landing. It highlights all of this, but that's it. It feels like it's hitting you with all these themes that it doesn't really explore in any way beyond simply bringing them up, which is disappointing. It's interesting for sure, and I dig the core story, but said story is trying to unpack too much for its runtime, and I'm not fully sure what it's trying to say as the main point. Or, I don't know, maybe I'm stupid. My interpretation of at least the ending is, given the symbolism of the little toy he built of her with the angel wings rising up after he departed, he was obviously taken to hell for his crimes. I'm kidding, of course. God took pity on him and whisked him away from his wife, and he seems to have gotten forgiveness or at least some kind of resolution after going back and facing what he had done, which probably allowed him to pass peacefully. Also, hey, there's Godzilla, one of a few cameos throughout the film. The part I liked most was, surprise, 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 the setting. It's got a retro-futuristic look based on 18th century England. This shot here sums up the weird juxtaposition. You've got a hover car waiting while a sheep herder crosses the road. Again, this movie conjures up imagery you're not gonna see anywhere else. The real standout are these complex and tangled, almost Giger-esque towers in the center of the city we see only for an instant. What's the deal with that? As with Franken's Gears, it feels like there's a whole world under the surface here, and the music is some of the prettiest in the entire film. I'm just gonna let it speak for itself. Presence may be my least favorite of the stories, but that's indicative of the sheer quality of this film because it's still pretty good, but also kind of underbaked in my opinion. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh yeah, the segment also opens with a goofy sequence of a bunch of kids kicking a robot's head around like a soccer ball. Woo, yeah! Well, that last one was kind of depressing. How about something more lighthearted? Ooh, here we go. Now, before I get into the plot, here's something I noticed right off the bat with this one. That sounds very similar to the prelude theme from Final Fantasy. And while they were released the same year, Robot Carnival predates FF by several months. Now, it's a basic enough arpeggio that it could be a coincidence for sure, but it's worth noting that this isn't the only track eerily similar to one from a game that came out afterwards. This is one of those ones that really embodies 80s anime in terms of the visuals, from the bright colors to the character designs looking like they leapt right out of Megazone 2-3, which, guess what? Starlight Angel was directed by Hiroyuki Kitazume, who previously worked on, who would have guessed, Megazone 2-3. The story follows two teenage friends hanging out at a robot-themed amusement park full of spectacle and, of course, robots. There's the more tomboyish, spunky blonde and her timid friend who's our lead. Now, they're going around having a good time, and the blonde wants her friend to meet her boyfriend. Except, whoops, it's her friend's boyfriend too, which upsets the poor girl pretty bad. That's why you don't date women from the same high school. Now, as with Presence, I would make a Chris Hansen joke, considering how much older this guy seems, but Jotaro from JoJo is 17, so for all I know this guy is too. Earlier, main girl bumped into a robot and lost her necklace the fake boyfriend had given her. As she's distraughtly fleeing, the bot spots her and follows after her trying to return it. She goes into one of the rides, and either this is the greatest virtual reality simulation ever, or the DMT kicked in. Or whatever the fuck would do this, I don't know. As with the black and white section of Franken's Gears, this is one of my favorite parts of the film. Although, while that was a grimmer atmosphere, we've got the complete opposite here. Aside from the marvelously retro animation and aesthetics, which I just can't shut the fuck up about, this segment in particular has this very wholesome feel to it. Like you're having a great day at the park yourself. Whatever vibe this movie wants you to feel, you do. The main theme for Starlight Angel is also one of the best on the entire soundtrack. It's so upbeat. The segment is as a whole, and that's why I love it. Oh, hey, Colonel. Tetsuo and Akira were a little ways back there. You just missed them. During this, the robot with the necklace catches up and tries to offer it to her. This gets her upset, and her mental state seems to affect the ride, which manifests this sick cyber monster. The robot tries to save her, and it turns out there's a guy under there. Because why not? Apparently the segment was inspired by the Take On Me music video, which makes sense. Both have a girl's fantasy guy become real after some kind of abstract emotional struggle. Plus, again, they're both 80s as fuck. It's off to a rough start, but Bop Boy succeeds in saving her, and they both fly off happily. The two girls reconcile, and I guess the robot actually did get turned into a real guy, so hey, everybody's happy. This is yet another one where the setting had me really drawn in, less so for its story potential and more so for the spectacle of it all. The rides, the garish feel, and all those retro robots. I want to go to this place. Why can't billionaires waste their money on cool shit like this instead of building supervillain layers? And it is sort of endearing just seeing these two enjoy themselves. Brings me back to a simpler time in my life. And it's just a nice story, you know? I mean, I love a good tragic tale as much as the next guy, but sometimes it's nice to experience a hopeful and bright one too, that doesn't leave you off wondering if humanity is fucked. Oh boy. This segment is the most artsy and abstract by far. It's the product of Manabu Ohashi, credited here as Mao Lambdo, a Studio Madhouse alumni who worked on anime such as Cyborg 009. I found out sadly he passed away, and seriously, rest in peace, man. All I can say is he left behind a masterpiece and will not be forgotten by the people who recognize this crowning achievement. Now, if you look up reviews of this movie, this is the one where people consistently go, "Ah, it's boring." But I disagree. It's simple overall. A robot walks, sometimes stumbles, through this cloudscape which changes to reflect the evolution of man, among other things, and then at the end he turns into a human for some reason. Now, I'm not claiming to get Cloud. I mean, to even try and analyze it properly would take a while. Otherwise, it would be some shit like, you see, the deep symbolism of him not looking at any of this means he simply does not care. It's not only the evolution of man, we see a strange beast, a lonely angel, UFOs, and a lot of clouds. I appreciate rewatching and parsing out new little details in Cloud each time, because, again, the level of artistry here is beyond commendable. I'm not gonna act as if this is super thrilling, but to me the animation is nothing short of beautiful, and as with the others, the music coupled with it was strong enough to keep me invested, and also because I was trying to figure out what I was watching. This muted, almost monochrome style and the steady flow of interesting and incredibly drawn imagery, it's an experience I won't be forgetting anytime soon. It's got a very hatched, kinda sketchbook look to it. I may not understand everything going on, or anything going on really, but it conveys an amazing atmosphere regardless. It made me feel something, and again, that's mainly thanks to that music. Like the animation, it's beautiful. The initial walk shows the robot going through this warm skyscape that's kind of comforting. Before transitioning into my favorite scene of the short, a violent storm meant to represent man's rapid development of technology and weaponry. The music track they play is both pretty, but also kind of domineering and overwhelming. Kind of like a storm can be. Look, it didn't change my life or anything. I still live in the desert wasteland fending off Jehovah's Witnesses, but it'll stick with me, that's for sure. I mean, let's say that for hypothetical sake, this is really some pretentious glop that doesn't actually mean anything. It's still cool anyway. I don't have a lot more to say about it because it's more of an experience that I can't truly summarize. I get how some could find it boring, but I was utterly enthralled by it. It's the most unique story here and one of the most memorable for me. But if I had to pick a favorite, it would be the next short hands down. This segment is presented by Hiroyuki Kitakubo, a veteran of the industry who was even involved in the original Gundam series. Fittingly, this one's a slapstick parody of mech shows and old political serials. Think World War II propaganda shorts from the silent era. Although this story is set in 19th century Meiji-era Japan. It's also the most heavy on dialogue, mainly consisting of banter between our kooky cast. The invading Westerner in question is John Jameson Volkerson III. And you know, this film already gave me a great mad scientist with Franken, but this guy is something else.
Destroy! Destroy! That is heathen's heaven! He's smashed to pieces!
This is by far the goofiest tale, but that humor is a big part of why I enjoy it so much. John has brought along a period-appropriate robot called Tinkerbell, built from mortar and lumber. However, the village he's attacked has their own steampunk machine. It was built for a festival, but come on, this is a much cooler use. It's manned by a crew consisting of Senkichi, the hot-headed leader, Yayoi, the only female of the group, who's more level-headed but is just as prone to outbursts if provoked, Fusuke, the nerd,
なんて言ってんだ
エゲレス語だったらわかるんですが、メリケン語は勉強不足で。
Daimaru, the lovable meathead, and Denjiro, who's either overworked, really calm, or doped up. Maybe all three. Despite how short the segment is, everyone's personality is very well defined, and the cast with their interactions and antics are golden. We're watching a bunch of dysfunctional, in-over-their-head goofballs trying to pilot a mech to defend their village from an even bigger goofball. It goes about how you'd expect. I love this team, I can't get enough of them. Senkichi's over-enthusiasm coupled with his temper results in some good bug-outs.
Okay? I know what I'm doing! I've done this show for...
But the guy is just so into it, you can't help but root for him. And I love how even though all of his plans technically pay off, it's never for the reason he intended. I find it funny how Yayoi seems more sensible and calm at first, but then she and Sankichi immediately start bickering in the middle of a fight after she points out he's causing a majority of the destruction being reckless. Although Sleepyhead isn't for lack of blame either. The kid is the only one who ever knows what he's talking about, well, most of the time. So naturally, in true comic fashion, half the things said to him are reminders for him to shut the fuck up.
さっきの大筒が当たってから調子が悪いんですけど。
やかましいちょっと黙ってない
Classic. And Daimaru is a bro who puts up with Sankichi and gets shit done. It's like the Voltron gang, but they're all brain damaged. It's the team dynamics that are carrying this short. They play off each other so well. And if there's anything that gets me to chuckle, it's some witty back and forth between a cast of lovable morons. Well, slapstick also works too. The real star of the show, though, is the world's greatest mind, John Jameson Volkerson III. First of all, what a design. Second, I love that he's still voiced in English in the Japanese dub, and the voice they got for him is so good.
If they do not retreat at once, this cannon will make them pay for their arrogance. I will give them just 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. It is unfortunate that this must happen. I pray that your souls may rest with God.
To his credit, the guy did manage to operate an entire mech on his own, and it's more advanced than the opposition. But in the end, I guess you just can't beat Japanese patriotism and a giant robot. Although, again, they don't beat him exactly as planned. But the best part is, while the fight's goofy, it's actually well done. It's one of the more energetic and kinetic segments, but they also managed to capture the weightiness of these mechs, which look awesome, by the way. They put real effort into making them look like real working machines with all these gears and pulleys and the sort. Very clunky as well. If robots did exist at this time, I can't imagine them looking any other way. They were designed by Mahiro Maeda, who, like many other staff for the film, worked with Studio Ghibli, which makes sense. Stuff like Howl's Moving Castle has similar looking machines in terms of the materials and assembly. He also did concept art for Mad Max Fury Road, he helped on the animated segment in Kill Bill, and even designed some of the angels from Evangelion, just to list a few of his accomplishments. So no wonder these things look awesome. Were whereas the humans were crafted by Yoshiyuki Sadamoto, who, funny enough, did the human character designs for Evangelion, and he knocked it out of the park here too. Each is very distinct, yet another reason they feel so well established despite us knowing little about them. It feels as if we're watching yet another day in the group's lives. It's all very natural. Appropriate considering it's jokingly titled to imply this is an entry in a series with a little to be continued at the end. I love how half the battle is them walking towards each other, because these things are so slow and clunky it takes forever to start doing direct damage. But it means the crew have to get creative beforehand by shooting fireworks at them. Then when they run out of power, the Japanese team is reduced to burning parts of their own mech to substitute coal. But John has the superior brain, okay? He's got battery power. So he powers up the thing manually by riding his bike, which, again, I love this goofiness. I'm also very susceptible to propaganda since I'm feeling patriotic for a country I don't live in. Then again, if any country offered me the chance to drive one of these, I'd defect immediately. God damn it, it was a joke. I was never in Russia, you can't prove it. The music goes hard too, what a surprise. It's a good time, man. One of the most entertaining and funny anthology segments I've ever seen. The only sad thing is it's not an actual series. I want them to make episodes 1 and 2 first, since this is apparently part 3. Then they need to follow up on this cliffhanger. The world's greatest mind must return, damn it. Remember how I said there was a segment inspired by Night on Bald Mountain? Well, here it is. This is the product of Takashi Nakamura, yet another Akira and Ghibli alumni, but he also worked on the excellent Sonic the Hedgehog OVA, which honestly, with some of the moodiness of the environments, I sort of see. This one ends the movie off with a real standout show. A demonic mega machine looms over Tokyo, covering it in dark brambles and raising wire-strewn towers of twisted metal. He sends forth his agent Redneck, the robotic magician, to go out and awaken all of the other machines, transforming them into mechanical monsters who come out to revel in chaotic celebration. Only one human is around to witness this event, a hapless drunk called the Chicken Man who tries to escape on his moped, but Redneck takes notice and gives chase. The rest of the short follows this pursuit, intercut with the other robots' antics, until daylight comes and the Chicken Man is saved as the robots must retreat, although Tokyo is still kinda fucked after. Like Franken's Gears, this one's more of a mood piece, and guess what? It's great. It opens with this cool shot of a pendulum swinging over the city before the demonic machine reveals itself, as if to signal its impending doom. Then the dark mechanical vines encroach upon the tenements, and these buildings sprout up like an extension of the robots themselves as they're very thrown together. And, of course, that music. It has such a great intro to settle you in, and it only gets better from there. There's a wee bit of slapstick, but it's more so an atmosphere of impending doom and chaos. Up until this point, we've had various kinds of robots. The typical retro-futuristic, shiny chrome bots, human-like androids, steampunk mechs, a clown boy, but the robots here are appropriately nightmarish. They're mostly asymmetrical, wiry, and made up of all sorts of little bits like walking piles of scrap. I mean, Franken's creation was a little slapped together, but this is on another level. These are certainly some of the most memorable designs in the entire film. You've got these gremlin things crawling out of a construction vehicle, and the shot where they do is burned into my head. Again, so many great uses of lighting in this film, like the glowing energies of Redneck, who looks great himself. He's got a memorable silhouette, and kind of reminds me of Crow from MST3K crossed with Red Riding Hood, but a lot more pissed off. I like how at first glance you could maybe mistake him for a Kid Appeal character from like a Saturday morning cartoon, but in the way he's presented, he comes off as threatening. Again, it strikes a good balance between genuine atmosphere and absurdity. This can be most plainly seen in Chicken Man, who's very expressive with some real energetic animations. The moody palette, mist-strewn city skylines, the architecture, it's got a particular visual style that reminds me a bit of Batman the Animated Series. As with the others, there's a lot of detail. It's another one of these where every time I watch it, I notice some new little peculiarity, especially in these later scenes of the robots upgrading themselves and building up their own robotic architecture. I love me a robot revolution. Although Chicken Man is the only human who seems caught in the crossfire. Aside from the property damage, the robots are here to party. I mean, it's clearly a sinister party, but no one seems really hurt by the end. Although Tokyo definitely got one hell of a makeover. But where the fuck were all the other people? Did they wise up when they saw this and just stay indoors? Were they all on NyQuil? The title for the US release is Nightmare, and I think that sums it up perfectly. And I don't know, I might prefer that title, although Chicken Man and Redneck does fit the cartoonishness better. One thing is that this intro showing Tokyo in the daytime is done in a slightly different style. There's some rotoscoping, which I actually like here. It looks effectively uncanny with the fluidness and the motion. Kinda wish they used it more. Honestly, the only thing close to a real negative I can say is that aesthetically I don't vibe with it quite as much as my favorites, but that purely comes down to personal taste, and it's still among the most visually striking. Once more, it's really about the competition being stiffer than me watching Record of Lodoss War. The wraparound brings us back to the robot carnival itself. After casually wrecking these villagers' shit, it ultimately can't overcome its next hurdle. Stuck on a sand dune, the robot carnival finally stops, and its show comes to an end. Maybe this is symbolism, but I don't know, man. I'm tired. Oh, but a kindly father has recovered something from the scraps to give to his kids. Maybe it'll cheer them up. Look, I know that family just died, but that was kind of funny. And a great way to end a film this uniquely strange. There's really no other way to describe it. There are few films that have a world this captivating for such a brief flicker, although in this case it's worlds plural. I'd be down for pretty much any of these shorts to be expanded into a wider story. I'm not 100% sure what that would be in every case, but it would sure as hell be interesting. But hey, I'm happy with those glimpses we get. It's fun to fill in the blanks and ponder about the potential of all these places we see. I mean, considering who worked on it, it would be a fucking miracle for it to suck, and yet even still it exceeded my expectations after rewatching it for this review after years. It throws so many tones and concepts at you, each in a short span, yet handles all of it almost perfectly. All of these are gonna stick with me, but if I had to rank the segments individually from worst to best, I'd go Presence, Deprive, Nightmare, the opening and wraparound, Cloud, Franken's Gears, Starlight Angel, and at number 1, Westerner's Invasion. With all that being said, it's still not even the best of Otomo's anthologies in my opinion. If you haven't seen that one, I may not get around to reviewing it for a bit, but consider this a recommendation for a good follow-up viewing after this one if you enjoy it. Also, I just remembered, I think there was something else I was supposed to be talking about, but nah, I'm sure it's not important.